So tonight, unfortunately, I don't have my partner in crime with me. So Foxy Project was ill this evening and unable to join us. So hoping that she gets to feeling better really soon. So tonight we have Tales from the Loop character. So tonight, creation, character building, basically. Going to be exciting. We get to go through it and find out what that's all about. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of walk through the character creation piece right out of the book and talk about that. Hey Draco, how you doing this evening? Um, so this is, and by the way, this is the first time in 2 years, I think, that I've done just a solo stream, just myself. Um, so pardon me if I bumble a little bit. Welcome in. So, character building for Tales from the Loop. Last week we talked about the world. I do feel a little bit naked tonight. Yeah, I don't have human shields in here to help me out. Um, and that's all right. It's been, like I said, it's been a long time since I've just done a solo stream, but that's okay. I'm good with it. I might do more solo streams, as a matter of fact. I got to get used to doing that anyway. Um, and there's so many streamers out there who do exactly that. Most of your video game streamers are, they may have like people through Discord or something like that in the background that they're playing with, but generally it's a solo stream. So I just got myself used to, with playing RPGs, I got myself used to having a group of people, a team with me to do this. Um, and tonight it won't be that way. Tonight it'll just be me. So I am cool with that. And hopefully all of you are cool with that too. And everybody who joins us. I do have a little bit of maintenance I need to do before I get rolling into this. So let me just get a ping out here to everybody. How are you doing tonight, Draco? Um, oh, thank you, man. Much appreciated. Lots of loud typing and fun stuff going on. All right. Wanted to get a little ping out there for everybody. Let them know we are going live. Fantastic. A little sore, but filling out a character sheet. That's awesome. And just for everybody, so Lord Draco actually um, got himself a seat on our Walking Dead stream. So probably not this coming episode, but probably the next episode, he is going to join us and play a character in that story. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens with that. Is he going to be a good guy, a bad guy, a who's he going to be? I don't know. You'll just have to watch the stream and find out. Doing it at the right time, throw some. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Hey, Rob, how are you doing tonight? Younghan, my mod, fantastic, and one of my partners. So excellent. I would have drug you in here tonight, man, but I know this you weren't like completely up on this game, so we're good. All right. I am going to flip right over to the book. All right. So I don't know if any of you have watched like the Tales from the Loop TV series. This whole thing is based on some artwork by Mr. Spellheim, and It is awesome artwork, by the way. If you get a chance to actually go out and take a look at some of his work, it's really good. A lot of it is, represented in the books. So all the artwork in the books is coming right from his collection, and it's good stuff. Especially if you're into that sort of sci-fi, Stranger Things type, but not with a D&D-esque thing, but it definitely has just this vibe to it that's very cool. Um, a lot of like your early 80s, even late 80s TV shows, lighthearted, kids involved, like The Sandlot. There's some other ones out there that, it's just kids in the things that they do, the stories that they create. I mean, I remember being that kid who, with my friends would make up a story, and then we would act, reenact, basically act out that story. Um, we were LARPers and didn't know it. Just chilling, looking forward to hearing about. Oh, awesome, man. Good deal. So, character creation, I just decided to run right through the book itself and kind of talk through that, rather than having it be a character sheet based thing. Um, I mean, we can create a character in the background. That's fantastic. But let's run through character building. Tales from the Loop definitely gives me 80s, 90s. Well, yeah, it should. I mean, it's all based on 1980s lore, the things that were going on during that time period. The music, the movies, the all of it. I mean, 1980s teenager. I don't know how many people here can relate to that, but I can sort of late 1980s teenager. I think in 1980 I was 5 years old, so yeah, that wouldn't work so well. Which brings me to one aspect of the game. So the second thing you need to do in this game is decide your age and the ages of the characters in the game. So it is teenagers that you're playing. 1990s. They don't make they don't. You're right. Um, so your character is going to be between the ages of 10 and 15. Um, for me personally, I don't really remember that really well, but from what I do remember, there were fun times and not so fun times. Um, it's like junior high going into high school. I imagine there's a lot of people out there who didn't, that wasn't necessarily a highlight of their life, but there's others that it was. So 10 to 15. And so one thing with this, the younger, so there's a luck piece that goes into this game. And luck basically allows you to like hit the reset button. So if something doesn't work for you, you use a luck point to try again. Um, and that's all based on your age. So a 10-year-old gets 5 luck points, and that's 5 resets pretty much. A 15-year-old gets none. So you're kind of right there. Once you turn 16, once the character turns 16, ideally you're not allowed to play anymore. You're beyond that fantasy stage of your life and on to the mundane real world fun stuff. You have to start adulting even though you're only 16. That really sucks. But hey, that's the game, right? So dad at the age of 14 and 15, that sounds like that sounds kind of miserable, man. But what a story. Yeah, when you turn 16, you're screwed. Absolutely, Infinity. Absolutely. You are no longer a kid, apparently. And I don't know, I'm like a 50-year-old kid, so I don't understand that. Um, what else do we got? Dad at the age of 14 or 15. Man, that one's just, and now you got me curious. And completely sidetracked from what I was doing. Early adulting. Remove my childhood fun as a teen. Yeah, I bet it did, man. Sorry to hear that, brother. I actually, as a teenager, my so my stepdad's dad was he had massive heart attack and stroke, so he was in a wheelchair, quadriplegic. So I spent quite a bit of my teenage years just going to school, and then after school, my mom worked, and my stepdad was a general contractor, so his business was down in the Chicago area, and they'd moved us up to Wisconsin. Um, Keep me out of trouble. Supposedly that was the idea. I don't know how well that worked. Maybe it did. Um, but yeah, so I spent a lot of time with him. He's a cool guy though. So, but I spent a lot of time taking care of him. Just helping out. It wasn't like didn't have to do a lot. It's just making sure that somebody's there, basically more than anything else. But yeah, so first thing we're going to do for Tales of the Loop and actually getting a character created. Try to be a good city boy. Absolutely. Well, which city boy? So there's archetypes in this game, and it works the same as most of the other free league games. So you start out with an archetype. It's not like a class, okay? So you're not locked into this thing where, hey, I'm playing a fighter and I got to do fighter things. If I want to do something different, I have to dual class or anything like nothing like that. The archetype is a starting point for your character, so it gives you a place to begin, who you are when you come into the story. First one on the list, obviously, is the bookworm. Um, I want to make a point out of just you don't have to just be the bookworm, all the way through this. And it's not like you got to level up your character so you can change your behaviors or become something different. It's just a starting point. So you may have come into the story as a bookworm, but as you've leveled your character, as you've gained improvement points and been able to use those to increase your stats or buy new abilities, you may be something completely different in a short period of time. It really just depends on how you want to play. City boys are valuable to country boys. Just saying. Okay, yeah. I started out as a city boy, and now I'm not sure. I spent more of my life in the country at this point, so I don't know whether that makes me a country boy. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. All right, so I'm going to run through these quick. I'm kind of paying attention to chat too, so I'll engage with you guys as I'm catching stuff there. Start as a bookworm and end up as a mad scientist. Yes, yes, indeed, that could happen. I mean, so the bookworm, um, what is basically what you would think of. It's that pocket protector type. As you can see the picture there, high water pants and all those things. Some of the things that they have for like an iconic item, and to explain iconic items just a little bit, um, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has any type of special power or anything like that. It just simply means that it's something that you value a great deal. To give you, for instance, I had a friend in high school. You get these things like you get the kid that collects baseball cards and brings the baseball cards to school and shows everybody his baseball cards or whatever, basketball, football, it doesn't matter. But then that becomes the iconic items for that person. Everybody associates that person with that. Um, I had one friend who found, you had the click pens when you're in high school where they'd have like four different little colors that you could do. For a while there, they were making these big, big round pens with like 20 different colors. They didn't work real well, but you could get like 20 different colors in there. And every time I think of that dude, I think of that stupid pen. So that'd be his iconic item. Um, and some of the things they list here is like a dog named Pluto, encyclopedia, magnifying glass, just that thing. The pins, yeah. Yes. I might have maybe been the baseball card person, maybe. I don't know. I had a huge collection. Special child pen. I had a huge collection of baseball cards. I used to trade them suckers all the time. It was a lot of fun. Kept me busy, and it was a way to connect with people. And I think that's really what the iconic item thing comes down to. Is it's kind of your way to connect with people. It may not be something in common, but at least it gives people a like a talking point. You know what I mean? Kind of like adult society. I mean, what are some of the one of the things that we tend to ask people when we meet them, other than the mundane stuff, how's the weather, how you doing, what's your name, is what do you do, you know? And then once we know that, then the conversation switches to, and you think about it for a moment, people that you don't see every day, you only see them periodically, but they're a friend in some sense, probably more of an acquaintance. But what do they ask you? Questions like, how's work? How's the job? Because that's the icebreaker. That's the way to connect with you and give you something that you're hopefully comfortable talking about. If you really hate your job, you probably don't want to hear it. But hey, we all have our things, right? Next on there is the problem. So ideally, what you're going to have that one thing that really kind of is it's a problem for you, as a stick thorn in your side. Um, just like, and just to use the reference to Stranger Things because it's the freshest one. You don't hate your job, you just hate humans. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can share that sentiment too. Draco's one of them, absolutely. We are strange creatures. I will say that. I don't hate humans, but I think most of the time I prefer to not be surrounded by them. That's probably a fair assessment. Um, Try not to hate anybody, I guess. Hate's an awful strong thing, and it definitely causes more problems than it solves. So, you know, try to be. I just try to be as sociable as I can, and give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. All right. So drive. Actually, I didn't really cover the problem thing, like a little sister, or your sister's really sick, or that weird man is following me, nobody tells me how my dad died, type of thing. Um, there's all kinds of things that you could use in really thinking, from a 10-year-old standpoint. I mean, those are good ones, but there's that could go so many places. And these things, so the problem, the drive, the iconic item, the pride, those are all story generators. So they can all be used to not, to kind of help you flesh out your background and help the GM generate story that's more specific to your character, so that you get that opportunity to, really kind of do the character building for your character and build out who are they and how are they impacted by things. One thing about Free League games is their games are very story driven. This is storytelling in a group setting. It's not, where like your old classic style Dungeons and Dragons it's RP, but it's also a board game. Um, and heavy in the maps and the tokens and moving around the board and rolling dice. Ideally, with system with like Free League systems, you're not going to be rolling dice all the time. I mean, and a lot of it depends on your GM. I mean, some GMs are going to ask you to roll dice for everything. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I want to open the door. Okay, roll dice, see if you can open the door. So, okay, that's a little excessive. Um, let's take a look and see. One guy today was like, "Oh my God, I need my phone service. I live out in the woods, no cell towers. I need my phone service. You're thinking the whole time, damn, I wish I was him. Yeah, yeah. I would never want to go back to living in the city. I just don't. I don't have that anymore. I have family members that absolutely love it, and a couple of them that live out like San Francisco area. Couple that live down in Chicago still. I just no thanks. So it's okay to visit for a little while, but I wouldn't want to. Nope. Take your time getting the phone working. I don't like those who call me anyway. All right, man. Phone and crush time. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm gonna stick to this for now. So pride. What do you have for pride? And this kind of the references they give here are very much that adolescent stage in life. You have those, the kids who think they're really smart, the kids who think they're really, really fast, or whatever it is. We all try to find ourselves at that stage in our life, and generally we have some perception of what we want to be, and or what we want to be really good at. Sometimes that becomes to a point where whether you're really good at it or not, you think you are. Some people never outgrow that. Um, but yeah, that's just part of where you end up at. Relationships with other kids. These are all things you want to flesh out as you go through and build this character again because it helps build the story piece to it. Um, you're gonna choose at least one of the other characters in the group or make up your own. Um, and then that person becomes either like a competitor, a sibling, a friend, or in some cases, you may really desire their attention. Um, the whole teenage idea of falling in love thing. Um, Depends on how you want to play it, and it also depends on how the other player wants to play it as well. I don't encourage people to decide they're falling in love with another character and not talk that over with the player that's playing that character. That would probably be a good idea. Um, Otherwise, it can get a little creepy. Um, so relationships to NPCs, same thing. Your NPCs are just going to be the surrounding people. The school janitor, your teachers, your mom, your dad, um, anybody who's going to be interacting with that character on a regular basis who is not going to be a player character. You definitely want to determine what kind of relationship you have with those people. You're going to have people that come in and out all the time that are just momentary encounters, but then you're going to have those people that maybe the janitor at your school is a really cool person and they mean something to you, or mom and dad, your baby sister, the guy next door, who knows. That's all part of that backstory piece, how you're going to generate story for your character going forward. After that, you're going to want to go into anchors. And, the typical anchors are going to be somebody who's really important, like mom or dad, who probably, yeah, they're both NPCs and an anchor in that case. Um, they're the really important people to you. It could be, I mean, you could have another party member as your anchor in that teenage love story style thing. I mean, maybe that person is the anchor for your character, or maybe it's just somebody that you've known all your life. Maybe another member of the another character in the game. You grew up with them. Your parents are friends, that type of thing. Senile janitor or sensei janitor. Wax on, wax off. Yes, absolutely. Um, and then typical names, and they give you some examples of names because The story is based on, the basic concept of the loop is these particle colliders. And there's one in Sweden and one in the US. Um, Near Boulder is the idea, the story in the game. Um, and so you get examples of typical names both in Sweden and in the US. Now, these are just examples that you can use. It doesn't mean that you have to go with any of these names, and it doesn't mean that you can't, you know, make up your own story in that case. I mean, you can plop a particle collider in, Columbus, Nebraska if you want to. It don't matter. You create that story. Could be a secret government project. It's actually there. It's just no one ever knew about it till now. It's up to you. You create your own story in that. Wield a mop to grasp with the grasp of the librarian. Handle with care. Right. Right. He's going to teach you how to wield that mop appropriately. You're going to be the best mop wielder there is. So next up on the list is the computer geek. I honestly, as a teenager, I think I could have fit in either one of these categories. Um, Computer geek is what you would think that person is. I mean, back in the 1980s, you didn't really have a lot of computers. I mean, you had like the Commodore. I think I don't know if the Commodore 64 was even there then. Um, you did have, as far as like video games and stuff like that, you had like the Odyssey systems, the Atari. I think I got to look at that. 1980 computer systems. 1980 computers. Let's just see what it says. All right. So you had the Sinclair ZX80. Yeah, that one was so great. It's the first time I ever heard of it. The VIC 20 Qualipad. Wow. Okay. I remember the 5.5 inch floppy disks because that was all the rage for teenagers in high school during my day as who had the floppy disk because that's the guy you had to go talk to if you want to do any programming because you had to have a floppy disk to save your work on writing them wonderful programs in MS-DOS. Awesome stuff. I created several programs. I started out actually, I taught myself how to write programs in DOS, but I did it out of a book. And the book had like several it had a Frogger-esque game in there. It had like an Autobahn, where you're driving a car. Compared to games now, it's so ridiculously cheesy. It's fun, but back then that was like awesome. I can create this game. All I got to do is write this code and I can program in some limited graphics and the actions piece to it. So that would have been early 1980s. Yeah, MS-DOS and PC-DOS come into play at that point. Be a few years before I actually learned it, but that's when it happened. And then you had the Red Book, which was audio CDs. Wow, Sony and Philips introduced that. But that would be the type of stuff that your computer geek would be dealing with. I mean, with some of the programs that you could probably write a text base, definitely using DOS, you could write a command and response style text based RPG if you really wanted to. It wouldn't be algorithmic or anything like that. It would just simply be command and response with multiple options. Kind of like the old video games where you have a choice of, here's your 4 responses, and depending on which one you choose, it dictates how it goes. So that's your computer geek. Your hick. See, I could be this guy now. The hick out in nowhere, Wisconsin. Mud. Yes, absolutely. Walkmans were hot back then. You bet. And now you sound You don't sound any older than I do, man. In the lair of the Ice Queen. Absolutely. The Smart Geek had, okay. I never had the backpack full of CPU toys, but I always made sure that I had plenty. I had the 5.5 inch floppy disks, and then the new rage after that was the 3.5 inch hard disks. Um, so yeah, because they had twice the memory capacity or more of the floppy disks. I definitely remember those. The early Commodore 64s didn't even have discs; they had cassette tapes. So you literally had to buy an a little machine that you could put the cassette tape into, and then you could save your stuff on the cassette tape. Weird, but it worked. All right, so the hick. Who is this guy? So your classmates smile at you because you're tan. Your pronunciation of their jokes, but oh, okay, there you go. What does it matter when you get to go out in the fields and woods every day? Smell of corn, grateful sounds, the cows make in the morning, milking, been a part of your life since you were born. Wow. Okay, so a hick is a farmer in here, I guess. Um, how to drive a tractor? Absolutely. How to hunt, slaughter animals? Yes. Yes, unfortunately. Um, when I was a teenager, I wanted to hunt because my family hunted because my stepdad, my brother, my sister, my mom. So I really wanted to go out and hunt, hunting season, whatever, carry a rifle through the woods. I had a really interesting experience when I was 15 and I haven't well, I did some squirrel hunting, just some fun with some friends, basically. We did a lot more just shooting things than we did actually hunting, um, which that's kind of fun. Um, but yeah, had a really interesting experience on a hunting trip and decided, you know what, I am not doing this anymore. No, I didn't shoot an animal. I was almost shot. Yes. So I decided I was done. I don't want to do that no more. Fishing was good. Nobody's going to shoot at me. I can do fishing. The jock. So this is an interesting option for your character. It just depends. Each one of these really is just, what do you want to play? What do you want to be coming into this story? Do you want to be the rough and tumble, very secure or very insecure? Do you want to be really smart? Do you want to be, who are you? The popular kid, the not so popular kid, the one who got picked on, swirlies during fifth hour type of thing, or what is it going to be? Anybody here know what a swirly is? If you do, put it in chat. Let me know what a swirly is. Here we have the popular kid. I would love to see somebody create in this game. I would love to see somebody create and play the popular kid because I don't think that you okay if you look at it on a little bit older setting like the Breakfast Club, that movie, yeah, okay, you got the popular kid in there, maybe a couple of them, not the same as Tales from the Loop, but save your toilet. You know what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Um, never. I know some people who had that lovely experience. Never personally had that experience, and I am thankful for that. The rocker. I could have been this one too because that was my. I mean, I I was born in the Chicagoland area. I lived there until my early teens. And then my family moved, my brother and I, to the middle of frickin' nowhere, Wisconsin. I mean, we went from the area around Elgin, which is a suburb of Chicago, high population, and we didn't even move into town. We actually lived like a couple miles outside of town. So you literally you could just barely see the next house from where we were. I mean, it was that far, like a half mile, three quarters of a mile away. Um, and the town itself was only like 600 people. So I went from like hundreds of thousands to 600 people that live a couple miles away. Um, Still love your Mohawk. Awesome. The Mohawk guy. I grew up with that. It was common, more common when I lived down in the Chicago area. You had the punk scene going on. Surprisingly, we did when I moved up to Wisconsin. There were some wannabe punks up there as well, um, and I tended to gravitate to them because they weren't they weren't the normal kids. I don't know. I don't want to be normal. That's boring. Um, so the rocker. This is one I would probably play. I would probably put together a rocker and be that kid. A little bit aloof, a little bit standoffish. Got my music. Don't need anybody else, but still have still have my friends. Just try to keep them at an arm's distance without letting them get away, kind of thing. So the one thing I didn't cover earlier is the key skills in here. And each one of these does have a list of key skills. Like for the rocker, you have move, charm, and empathize. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to try that again. You guys can read it. Um, so starting out, you pick one of the three. You pick one of the three that you want for your character. And now you can, as you play, you will get improvement points that you can go in and you can, like I said before, you can raise your skills, you can buy new character abilities, and they don't have to be, that's the great thing about this, back to the class thing, there is no classes. This is just a starting point. Tongue-Tied Thursday, absolutely. So you can go outside of this archetype and you can buy other things. Like, let's say you started out with a rocker that had the empathize ability, and then you decided, hey, you know what? I kind of want to be a computer geek, so I think I'm gonna go for programming. So I'm the rocker who secretly sits at home and programs, which I think most of us could probably relate to today. People, the whole streaming culture. We definitely want to get on there and do some things, create some things. So yeah, let's jump back down here. Past rocker. Next one up, we got the troublemaker. Rob. I mean, sorry, buddy. Um, the troublemaker could be a lot of fun, and this guy is the one who's probably going to instigate a lot of the things going on with your group, because they're the one who's going to want to do something. It's like, yeah, all you guys want to do is sit around and listen to music and play video games, and I want to like go explore. I want to go check out the caves, that abandoned mine. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's go out in the wild where nobody's at. So, I knew that kid. I knew that kid very well when I was a teenager growing up. I think he and I were probably best friends because he would think of the trouble that we could cause, so I didn't have to think of it. But then we went and did it. And then you have the weirdo, and what a depiction of the weirdo. And this is that guy, kind of a mix between punk, the rocker punk scene, and just whatever wild and crazy rebellious things they could possibly come up with. The guy who wore the trench coat and combat boots, or the East German Border Patrol jacket. Don't know who that was. But yeah, those people. Why is your picture in the group in the book? I don't know, man. What were you doing when you were 10 to 15? I think it could be any of these could be so much fun to play. You create one of these characters and just roll with it. Tell some awesome story. And with how the game works, you're creating those fanciful settings. There is actually, like in the starter set, there's some beginning adventure ideas for you. I think there's actually a playthrough adventure in there. Um, so it's not like you have to, completely try and think of something that kids would do when they're 10 to 15. Um, there's all kinds of options. And there's a lot of supplemental material for the system as well that you can use. So that is definitely awesome. And hey, if you really want to, go watch the TV series because that is full of ideas that you could use to create your own adventures with. It's such a mild game. You don't have the, running around trying to kill the monsters. It's more mystery. Not that it can't be dangerous because it can, but it's not all about death. It's really about that childhood experience of fantasy and mystery, and I I think it's awesome. I have actually not played this game yet, so I definitely am looking forward to trying it out and see what it's all about. And like you guys who know me, I tend to be more on the darker side for games. Your Cyberpunks and Alien and Walking Dead. But I like to be versatile too. I like to try out other things, the more lighthearted games, and just get a feel for what's going on there. Challenge yourself a little bit. Be a 10-year-old again. I mean, come on, who doesn't want that? All right, so now we roll into age and abilities. So I kind of talked about the age earlier. You're going to pick an age between 10 and 15, and then that determines how much luck you have. So the 10-year-old is going to have 5 luck points. You can decide what your birthday is, completely up to you, but it's kind of the idea being that if you're going to run it as a campaign, that as your characters get older, the end for that character is when they turn 16, because at that point then you're getting a driver's license and suddenly girls become, or whatever, sexuality, we'll put it that way, become more important to you. um for me it was girls, and I tell you what, it was just a lot more trouble than it was worth, but hey, you do what you do. So your attributes. The basic 4 attributes in the game are body, tech, heart, and mind. And they will flesh out all the aspects of your character rather than like a D&D-esque game where you've got 6 attributes. Every game has the attribute scores. These are the things that really kind of you build the character off of. All your skills build off of these. Body is your ability to jump, run fast, fight, sneak, and climb. There's really not a hit point piece in this game, and we'll get to that as we go through this. Tech is kind of like your intelligence. It's really the ability to understand machines, robots, programs, technological things, open locks, doors, build things. Heart. Heart can be a little bit confusing in there, because you have heart and then you have mind. So heart is kind of like charisma, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. Knowing the right people, creating a good atmosphere, persuading others, you could say is charisma. And then you have the mind ability, which is your ability to find weak points, understand people, situations, creatures, solve riddles. All that's again probably wisdom in this case. That would be my, yeah. I mean, you can visualize these things as whatever you want. I'm just giving you what my take on it would be. Luck points in understanding there. So you're starting. Well, actually, let's back up a minute to your starting scores. So you distribute points equal to your age. All right. Um, no ability can be higher than 5. So if you're 10, you get 5 points to distribute among those 4 things. No ability can be higher than 5. Um, it never goes above 5. And you can spend on any attribute you'd like. So you can heavily weight yourself in one of these. You can be, the really tough kid. You can be the really tech savvy kid if you want to, or you can just be that guy that everybody likes, with the heart. Or you can be the guy who just had, the wise 10-year-old. Sounds weird, but is possible. And then as you grow older, When you turn a year older, you will gain an attribute point, but it's a trade-off. So you gain an attribute point, you can put wherever you want, but you lose a luck point. Okay. And then the luck points. I've pretty much explained this to you already. It's 15 minus whatever your age is, and then that's how many points you have. If you're 10, you have 5. If you're 15, you have a big fat goose egg. I would suggest making, if you want to make a little older character, I wouldn't make a 15-year-old. I would make a 14-year-old, and yeah, you are going to miss out on one tribute point, but at least you have that one opportunity to use your luck to hit the reset button on a really bad situation. If there's something that you really want to succeed at, because if you're 15 and you don't have any luck, then you roll poorly. Yep, too bad. Skills. So as we go through, you'll see there are 3 skills associated to each one of your attributes. So starting out with your body, you have sneak, force, and move. So the way the skill works, you take your initial attribute. So say your body is a 3, and then you add whatever. Say you're trying to sneak, and you have 2 points in sneak. So then you add 2 to it. So you'd have a 5, and it's all a d6 system. So that means you're rolling 5d6. Every 6 you get out of those 5d6 is considered a success, and at least on the base dice rolls, none of the other numbers matter. Now, there is a stress factor that goes in there. We'll get to that. Tech, thinker, program, calculate. Heart is your contact, charm, and lead, and then mind is your investigate, comprehend, and empathy. And hold on just one second. Back up a minute. So your skills, how many skill points you actually get, and I actually have to read through this because I forgot. Every kid can be well trained. Level of a skill varies 0 to 5. Corresponding dice. Where are you? Addition the dice from the tribute. Says start the game. There we go. You have 10 points to distribute among your skills. Later on, you can use improvement points to buy more skill points. That so you can improve your skills. Again, your skills only go to 5. So once you get to 5, you're as high as you're going to go in that particular skill. There are some modifiers depending upon gear that you have to gain some extra dice as you go through as well. That's all of the year 0 system works that way. So most all Free Leagues games function very similar to this because it's using the year 0 system. Items. So some, like I was saying, some items can be useful to overcome trouble. Adding extra dice for you to roll, giving you more opportunities to get a success. Um, really depends upon what the item is and then what the bonus is associated to that. And again, the items lists that you're going to have in the book are somewhat generic. Skateboard, I notice it says in here, in which I mean, I don't know. I had a skateboard when I was 15, so I mean, I would never say that I was a skater. I think I spent more time nursing skin knees and knuckles and twisted ankles than I did anything else, or banging my head on something trying to be an idiot. I mean, trying to be a skater. Um, and then your iconic items. So you start the game with one iconic item. It works just like the other items, but it also says something about who you are, and that's the pen or the baseball cards or whatever that happens to be. Maybe it's a skateboard. Actually, that would probably be a pretty iconic item. Um, Bike and rollerblade. I did the rollerblade thing too when those first came out, and that was like the tail end where I was really kind of getting over the whole skateboarding thing. So I tried the rollerblades, and I did that for like one summer, and then didn't really, yeah, it didn't stick. Then I went back into like mountain bikes and stuff like that, and dirt bikes actually. Did that for a long while. Ended up, yeah, getting a minor concussion. Got a scar to prove that. Fun times. All right, and then rolling into the problem. So all kids have a problem in the game. So you may have kept yours to yourself, or maybe you told the other people in the group. Maybe they all know what your problem is. Um, if you've watched Stranger Things, you can have a pretty clear idea of how that works. Every one of the kids has a problem. Either they're the super smart geeky kid and they don't have any friends, or they feel like they don't have any friends. Um, Do you like rollerblading? I don't think I ever actually said I liked rollerblading. I tried it, but yeah. Yeah, Stranger Things. Hey, I would recommend why. I actually season one was really awesome, and I mean the other seasons were good too. But it, I think you could get some really, really good ideas for this game out of that. It's just so Tales from the Loop is the lighter side where, it's definitely not it's a more friendlier game. Okay, so the idea is the kids don't die. Okay, so you're not going to lose your character because your character died. Your character can get to a state called broken, and that's where you have been injured, maybe mentally, maybe physically. You're not going to be able to take any actions or anything like that until you either have time to rest or somebody comes and helps you. But the idea is that you're a resilient child and you're going to be able to regain your strength and come back out swinging, but you're not going to die. So that is one aspect of this game that is it's very specific that we're not doing this to kill off kids. It's about having fun and living out those more or less childhood fantasies that you might have had. Um, Now there is a darker version of Things from the Loop and or Tales from the Loop, and that's Things from the Flood. Sorry, I mixed the two names up. So Things from the Flood kind of shifts that a little bit into opening up the idea that, hey, you know, the world is a dangerous place and you can actually get hurt. Um, Depends on your play style, depends on what kind of story you want to tell. And we will cover Things from the Flood in some later episodes and really kind of go over, what are the differences between the two systems. Here's the thing with this. The mechanics work both ways. So you could play Tales from the Loop and use some of the mechanics from Things from the Flood. That works perfectly, or maybe even character types and stuff like that from Things from the Flood. And then once you go beyond Things from the Flood, there's a not the same but very similar system called the Electric State. There's some tie-ins there. It's just the Electric State has its own story piece, but you'll see a lot of the art kind of passes back and forth between the two. Um, Drive. So what drives you? And this is one you really got to put a little bit of thought into as far as between for that character type that you made. Your computer geek is probably not, and I'm maybe a little judgmental, call them a computer geek, but you're a computer person. Um, they're probably not going to be the ones who are out in the woods. Yeah, the science guy. Yeah. What is that? Bill Maher, the science guy? He was probably that guy. Or I don't know if I got the name, I got that totally wrong. Um, but yeah, it helps you to understand. She blinded me with it. Weird Science. Gotcha. I got the reference there. And I loved that movie, by the way. Um, I remember as a kid spending plenty of time thinking about that type of scenario, and yeah, if that could actually happen, if I could create the perfect person on my computer, the perfect woman on my computer, and then have her be a reality. I'm sure that actually got a lot of people, during that time period that were around my age. It probably got a lot of people interested in computers suddenly. Um, the unfortunate part is that it wasn't real and it couldn't really happen. It was just a big downer, but damned if I didn't try. So pride. Every kid has pride of some sort. Just yeah, it was just that time. Well, I don't know if it was just that time period. I mean, look at what we have going on now. I mean, you have I'm not if you feel called out here, I apologize. But we have people who create female characters just so they can watch them move around. Like they're playing the game, but I mean, there's an added benefit there. Baptized, welcome in, man. Only works you have a bra on your head. Hey, I forgot all about that. You're right. They did. They did that. It was an awesome movie. Yeah, and I was trying to think of her name, Elizabeth Hurley. Yeah, yeah. I'm shocked that I forgot her name. I must just be getting to that point in my life where yeah, those things start falling off, dementia or something. Um, well, thanks for sharing that, Lord Draco. I'm glad to know that. And they just, the thing is they make the avatars so that they're attractive. And obviously, I mean, do you really want to create a absolutely but ugly character in any video game? I'm sure there's people out there who have tried that. But if you're going to be spending a lot of time doing something, then you probably want it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. Baptized. You gotta send me a picture of that, brother. All right. The relationships piece, I am going to skip down a little bit. Um, Actually, okay, so typical NPC relationships related to everyday life. So there's two aspects to the game. We kind of, Foxy and I kind of talked about this last week, where you have the mystery piece, so the fanciful piece, what is actually going on, the fun stuff, and then you also have the mundane stuff. And the system encourages you to do both so that you can, you know, draw that picture of the full character. What do they like in the real world, and then what do they like in their fantasy world, kind of thing. Um, So when you go through and do that, you're going to want to really get what do they really like? And then what is the typical relationships that they have? So that sensei janitor dude, does he have any idea that, after you leave and go home in the afternoon from school, you're the mystery detective or you're out fighting imaginary dragons? Are they really imaginary? Or is there one? Like out in the woods waiting. Maybe it's vampires too. What are the name of those? There's oh, I don't remember the name of them now, but there were a few vampire movies that were somewhat comedic and it's killing me. I can't remember them. Um, but yeah, how many of you watched like Tales from the Crypt? No, no, I can't believe you said that in my channel. Twilight. What? What? There are no sparkly vampires in my world. Sorry. Um, awesome. So you have played before Baptized. You know what? I haven't actually played this system yet. Um, it's just reading through everything, and I've watched some playthroughs. Sinners is a great watch, absolutely. Anyway, I've watched some playthroughs, and I'm excited to try it. And I am a big fan of not all, but a lot of the episodes on the TV series. I think they did a really good job with that, and I can't wait to throw some ideas that I came up with at this. Oh, what do you got here? Yeah, Tales from the Crypt. That was one I watched when I was Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt. There was another one. Um, hmm, There's a bunch of those shows, and I mean, they all there's some really fantastic ideas in there that you could use. I mean, you could use those in sliders. Well, I don't know, maybe. I mean, you could use the concept, but they're not. They wouldn't actually. I guess if you really wanted to go that far, you could travel between universes. I mean, it would be I would like to see somebody do that with this system and just see how they do it. Tales from the Outer Limits, that's the other one I was trying to think of. Thank you very much, Infinity. The Outer Limits. There's a lot of really good episodes in the Outer Limits. um yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. So the conditions, let's talk about what actually happens to your character. So, depending on what is going on in the story and how you're reacting to it, so you can be, upset, scared, exhausted, injured, and broken. So it's not, like damage taken. It's more the condition of the character. So if you're upset, you're going to get a -1. That's a -1 modifier to everything. That's like stage one. If you're scared, you're also going to get the -1, and that would be stage two. So the conditions are also an indicator of how to play the kid. So you decide how much you want to play out your condition in the scene. Ideally, you would play it out according to what level you're at. If you're exhausted, if you're injured, if you're broken, or and it's don't let this completely dictate your play style. But you definitely want to, be at least have some sense of realism in it. I mean, if your character is at that exhausted level, then you're probably not going to be the kid who's just pumping away on his bike to go as fast as he can to get, wherever. You're probably going to be the one who's lagging behind and be like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I'm hurt. I don't know. This sucks." You remember E.T., the little kid who always was following along with the older boys and complaining the whole time, slow down, wait for me. And hey, there you go. You need your juice box. All right, man, go get your juice box. Um, Conditions. So right here, it does lay out the. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. It does lay out the concept of kids not dying. And that's a key piece to this system, is because it is that lighthearted piece. It's fantasy. um, and most of us, I don't know, I've played all sorts of things when I was a kid, everything from GI Joe to some of the things that were really big for me as a little kid. uh, I don't know, think I don't maybe 10, maybe 10 or 11 too. But like GI Joe was huge. The Autobots. Oh, there was another one out there. Oh, what was it called? Man, it was cats basically. It's a cartoon series. Um, I don't remember what the name of it was, but they were cat people. I remember that. TMNT, yes, absolutely. Thundercats, there you go. Absolutely. I loved that. Thundercats was like one of my favorites. Um, I mean, He-Man, Masters of Grayskull. I mean, there's a lot of really cool Skeletor memes out there now, I just have to say. You do. Then, obviously, you got the more mundane stuff. Your name. Who are you going to be? Um, you know, I covered earlier. They give you some examples of that, but you can come up with whatever you want. Billy Smith, the Wild Child. Um, I think my name would probably depend on more on what my character type was going to be. personally. Um, because I would want something that was going to be cool for my character type, and it may not even be my name. I might I might be Billy Smith, but I'm going to say I'm Sebastian Bach. Yeah, that's me. He-Man and okay, there you go. He-Man and the Thundercats. I Hey man, calling me out here. I watch both of them too. Um, yeah, why not? Why not go by a nickname, Baptized? I mean, it depends on what your character, what is your style? What do you want to do? I mean, maybe you're that kid whose real name is Billy, but you prefer everybody calls you Jumbotron. So when somebody calls you Billy, you get upset. Be like, I'm gonna beat you up. You're gonna get a swirly. Pickles and fish. Absolutely. Would you name yourself Pickles? The guy whose tag name is baptized in pus. I can only imagine what you would name yourself, man. Just got to be honest there. Awesome. That would be a lot of fun. I think you would be a lot of fun to play with, actually. Just FYI, baptized. If you're okay into the logical, hey, again, just depends on what is the character type. What do you want to play? Then your hideout. So meat diaper, huh? Well, hey, that actually makes sense. Um, So what the game encourages you to do is as a team. So all the players to get together with the GM and actually discuss what your hideout is gonna, what I mean, kind of plan it out. And that way everybody has a bit of say in it. So it's like you created it together. It's like, these kids built their treehouse or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a treehouse. I mean, it can be basically a cabin in the woods, whatever. Somebody's old deer stand, whatever you want it to be, some old car that somebody abandoned years ago, and you go hang out in it. Um, but you all have your piece of input as to what that hideout is going to be like. And I like that aspect because it gives you your clubhouse basically right off the bat. And everybody can have some basic ability to customize a part of that clubhouse. What's it going to be? You always have that kid who has his hidden stash of Playboys out there. I mean, don't know who that would be, but somebody. Um, and then your questions. So there are two groups of questions that you would ask as a GM, essentially. And I would encourage the players to ask themselves these questions and kind of put down those answers to help flesh out their character. So the questions to the individual kid is, in what way has your problem gone from bad to worse lately? And that creates an environment where you have to create a problem. What is troubling your character right now? And that could be the kid who's getting picked on at school. It could be, maybe you have problems with a an older sibling at home. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a little bit more deep rooted. Maybe mom and dad, maybe there's an issue there. They fight all the time, or they just got divorced and you're trying to deal with that, or whatever it happens to be. Um, what do your parents do for work? Obviously, you're going to want to know, who are they? What do they do? Maybe one of them works at the particle collider. Hey, there you go. Now you can like steal their identity badge and go sneak in. I don't want to encourage anything like that, so don't do that, kids, if you're at home. Um, what do you think about school? And I think that's an easy question to answer for most. I don't know. Can anybody here tell me that they absolutely loved school when they were 10 to 15 years old? I did not for any one particular reason. I would rather not be there. Um, nope. Okay. Oathbreaker Paladin is named Meth Leopard. She's a badass. I bet she is. Wow. We'll have to meet that one day. What is your favorite food? Do you have siblings? What do you think about them? You have, brothers and sisters. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you try to ignore them because they're the bane of your existence? It's completely up to you. What does your room look like? Obviously, clean and pristine. The bed is made every day, and no dirty clothes on the floor or anything like that. Uh huh. And what do you dream about at night? That might be a personal answer that you want to share with your DM and nobody else. I don't know, maybe. What makes you angry? I think there's probably a list of things that make you angry, but that's up to you. Tacos, absolutely. Tacos and pizza. Yeah, we speak the same language, all of us here. Um, I do love my tacos. I think I was like Mexican in a previous life, maybe. Um, what do you want to work at when you grow up? So, what do you want to do when you grow up? A fireman, a doctor, a lawyer, um, what do you think about sports? That's an important one. Obviously, some character types are probably going to have a pretty much given answer, and others, who knows? I believe it or not, I actually when I was like no, I did. I played football in junior high. So I've never been really overly attached to sports, but I did play sports. Um, and a lot of that was because there really wasn't anything else to do when I moved up here to Wisconsin. So you either played sports or you were bored. So I played sports. Um, what's your experience with robots? Because, and here's a key thing that I want to point out in this system. So this is the 80s that never was. So that's an aspect that you really have to kind of hone in on with this game is that robots are a thing in the 1980s of Tales from the Loop. AI is a thing in the 1980s from Tales from the Loop. Um, flying vehicles, all the like Back to the Future, kind of thing. It's the flying DeLorean, absolutely. That's definitely here. Um, but yeah, so there's lots of cool shit to play with. And how are you affected by your pride? I skipped the furthest you've traveled from home, from your hometown, 88 miles an hour. You lost me, brother. Yeah, you got to hit 88 miles an hour in order to travel back in time or forward in time for the DeLorean. I got you. I got you. Took me a little bit, man. I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes. Um, and then you have a set of questions for the group. And that's, kind of the building of how you're going to, how are you going to run into these stories? So you have the individual stories and the characters fleshed out at this point. So now it's building into the group and how does the group interact with their surroundings from the other kids in their school. Oh, absolutely. I think you could really create a wild character in here. Or you could do the completely mundane thing. Think of the most boring mundane person you possibly could, and you could create that. I don't know that couldn't be exciting as well. Um, because you would obviously start off probably not believing in any of this shit. And be like, no, there's no aliens, there's no Lady of the Lake, there's no ghosts, there's not. So then you could be scared shitless when you actually find out that you can bring your own imagination to life, at least in your head, and maybe for real. Who knows? Maybe the robots really are out to get you. Anyway, so from there you roll into chapter 5, the trouble. Gives you a lot of good examples in here for the game master, but we're going to focus on the players. So suffering conditions and dice rolls gives you some typical troubles that the kid might have. And here's the thing: you can create whatever you want to create. Work with your group, work with your GM, and come up with a story that fits your character. And here, we have a tendency to, in most games, there's always a little bit of ourselves in every character. Um, I would encourage you to try to be creative with that little bit of yourself that you put in there, and let it be the things that you would have wanted to be. Um, Nothing wrong with that. It's an opportunity. It's just a game. It's in your head. It's a story. So tell the story. Um, the square, the jock, the outcast, the nerd, and the hopeful. Absolutely. That sounds like, there you go. It's like the nuke, the healer, and the tank type of thing. Um, you have all the basic things covered. Make a really good group. Which one would you be, baptized? Which one would you want to play? One quick concept I want to cover here is doing the almost impossible. So you are going to have, ideally, you're going to have those instances where you run into something that just seems, the task that you can't overcome, or that block, that wall. An outcast, huh? Fantastic, man. Um, you might be trying to do something almost impossible, such as persuading your mother to let you go outside, even though the garden's full of crazy robots, or jumping from a bridge down onto a car passing at full speed, just to give you some ideas there. The thing with that is, as a GM, so as a player, you should be careful about, don't just run into every situation with this idea that you're invincible. You know what I mean? And that's quite a concept, because your character is not going to die, but you're not invincible. So I wouldn't run into every situation that way. But at the same time, I would encourage, like for me as a GM, I would definitely create situations where there's the opportunity for the kids to do something that is very challenging, almost seemingly impossible, and I'd probably make it a little easier for them to actually succeed at it, even though they think that they're looking at that over. We're gonna defeat the dragon type of thing. um or in the case of Stranger Things, it's going to be Vecna. We're going to defeat Vecna. Five kids, no matter how much you have for psychic powers, I'm sorry, I don't believe that you're going to defeat Vecna. But apparently, it is possible. So there's that. And like I said, as you skill improve your character, you're going to gain improvement points. You can go through. You can improve your skills. You can buy effects. Um, this is actually the in-game play piece to it. So leftover successes can sometimes be used to buy beneficial bonus effects. Um, Part of that, again, is up to your GM, how they want to handle that and how you would keep track of that. Um, it could definitely create an interesting dynamic, but it kind of conflicts with the idea of luck. So if you're going to play a group of kids that were all 15, then I would say absolutely, let's make sure that, if you're rolling extra successes, because you only need one most times, you only need one success. If you're rolling extra successes, then by all means, let them bank them so they can use them later. Um, but maybe how they use them is how you would handle it, versus maybe those extra successes are getting an extra dice to roll. So I got 6 dice, I rolled them all, and I don't have any successes, so I can use one of my previous successes and burn that to roll an extra dice to see if I can get a 6. No one tried giving Vecna tacos. You're a frickin' genius. Absolutely. I think that would have worked. Tacos. Anybody who says no to tacos? I mean, I don't say no to tacos. Absolutely, you could tell. Um, the rest of this really just goes into well, the non-player characters. I'm not really going to get into that too much. They can really depends upon how your GM wants to do it. Your non-player characters can give you bonuses, depending upon what's going on in the story. Kind of like, hey, mom gives you a $5 bill so you can do whatever, play some video games or buy that thing that you need to buy some candy to give to the alien who's hiding in the backyard that she doesn't believe is really there. Um, Failed rolls. If the way you get a failed roll is to simply roll no sixes. So literally, if you roll your rolls and you get no successes, that would be considered a failed roll. Um, there's so many different possibilities where you can go with that. And here's the thing with this. Don't be afraid to fail because sometimes failure in RPGs creates the absolute best RP moments. That opportunity to, just be not the superhero. Yeah, you have a good night too, Baptized. Thank you very much for stopping in tonight, and we'll see you again, man. Um, Yeah, so some of the examples they give you here is like you're caught and detained. So say you're out at night, you're all sneaking out of your house to go and do whatever it is you're gonna do. You got werewolves out there. You wanna go try and capture one. Um, and then the local police catch you, naughty kid. I'm gonna take you back home, feed you to your parents. The robot you built turns hostile. Short circuit. Every time I read that, it reminds me of that show. Stormy, welcome in, man. Awesome to see you. I popped into your stream a little earlier and just lurked for a little while, quietly. What's up, man? Good to see you. Everybody, if you're not familiar with Stormy, please do check out Stormy's channel. He does some D&D streaming, also some video games streaming. He has a podcast that he does, him and Druid IRL. I've been on his podcast a couple of times. Still waiting for an invite to go play some games with him. Anyway. Chef's Kiss. Yes. So, Stormy, have you ever checked out or played Tales from the Loop or watched the show? So, occasionally, your kids, it's not necessarily designed for like full on combat, but I mean, occasionally your kids are going to get into a little scrap. They might have a little tussle. Um, Yeah, we're talking about Tales from the Loop. You go back last week, we did World and Mechanics, Foxy Project and I. Tonight, I'm just talking about character building and the system. Just to give people kind of an idea of, it's so simple to build a character in this system, and the mechanics to it. It's all the Year Zero system. Um, Free Leagues games really make it easy to jump in and start RPing. So good stuff. Kid versus kid in this system, so you are going to have a little tussle here. Well, you could have a little tussle here and there. Obviously, they're not going to be out trying to kill each other, but there is a combat system in here that allows you to resolve those things where somebody can get hurt. So you have a chance of success with dice rolls, and then the push rolls, which I'll explain the push piece now. If you get a failed roll, so say you have 6 dice, you roll all 6 dice, and you get nothing, no sixes. You can then push that roll, which essentially means you roll all the dice again, and you add what's normally called a stress dice, but I do believe It's a little bit different in here. I'm just going to call it a stress dice for right now. I'm blanking on what it actually is called in here. But you can push that roll, and then it gives you an extra die essentially to do that with. It also gives you a chance to have like a critical failure as well. Last things in here is setting the stakes and then threat level. Um, Threat level is going to potentially build over time depending on what is happening in your story, and it's a way of helping to kind of create that intensity piece, um, which kids, when you're playing those games, you kind of self-generate the intensity piece to it, the battle that you're having. This just gives you the opportunity to, as that ratchets up a little bit, things get a little bit more difficult. There's maybe a little bit more trouble in what you're doing. Maybe more challenge. Maybe there's more robots that show up. It just depends on what the story is. What is the tale that you're telling? All right. So scenario and scenes. So we're kind of past the mechanical piece, the character building piece. I just want to touch on this stuff quickly. I'm not going to like dive into this too much for you. I encourage you to go try this out. If this system seems even remotely interesting to you, give it a shot. Um, it's a lot. It'll be a lot of fun for you. The ones that I've seen played, very fun. I might be doing a next Thursday, I might be doing a one shot of this system. I say might because it's still a little bit on the fence yet on that. Um, but check it out next Thursday. We'll give it a shot. So make a plan with the easy idea. Get the kids together and make a plan. How are they? The mystery at this point would already have presented itself. Um, kind of like if you've watched like the early 80s movie E.T., which is a classic. um, that's what when the kids found the alien, that's what they did. They started making a plan as to how can they help the alien, how can they get the alien to a point where he can ET phone home. um, so you make your plan, and then after that comes playing the scenes or executing the plan, and what happens. And the intensity will grow as you go through it. And every good story has that element to it. And then the outcome piece to it, which is, do you actually succeed, and how well do you succeed? Did you actually get ET to contact his people and they come and get him? Or did some three-letter agency interrupt your plan and cart him off somewhere else and tell you everything was going to be okay? I don't know. That's up to you. It's your game. You play it. All right. So that's the basics to it. There is a description of the skills in here. There's a description of all of the archetype abilities in here. So you can go through and see, kind of plan out a little bit. What is the path? What direction do you want to build your character as you level up that character, so to speak? Um, I would encourage you to take a look at what the different options are. What are the different powers that you can have? I'm calling them powers, but you get the point. All right. With that, I am going to flip back over to this screen so we can just chat about this. So, in the as we've gone through that, obviously we didn't build a character, but any ideas that you have as far as what you would ideas for your kid? Personally, I think for a first character, if I was going to be playing in this game, I think I would start out with a 10-year-old, maybe 11. Um, Definitely not 15, because I would at least want to have one luck point. That way I have one chance to hit the reset button if things go horribly wrong. Um, But as a 10 or 11-year old, I would get a few chances to do that, and I could over time play out that character progression of my character growing older. And I think it would explain it's neat to explain the progression of the character as it kind of like leveling in Dungeons and Dragons. The explanation behind the progression of the character, how they get stronger, how they get, better at the things that they do. Yeah. Yeah. Got the age piece in there. So that would be me. I think I would also probably, so I would do like a 10 or 11-year old. I would probably do the hard rock thing, so the rocker. Um, yeah, I think I would go that way, create that character. I would have my probably a Walkman, and I would always be listening to music, probably shadow drumming. Um, Whether I actually knew how to play percussion or not doesn't really matter. I'm just making noise. Got the imagination going, building all my own little things in my head. Um, and I would probably want to be the outcast type of the group, the one who's not necessarily super popular, but I got my little group of friends and they're very important to me, even though sometimes I might not treat them that way. They're very important to me. Yeah, you record all your stuff at home. I did this. So I had a boombox. So I would make tapes, recording stuff off the song, music off the radio that I like, and I would make my own tapes that way. It's so much easier to do now, obviously, but when I was a kid, I mean, you'd sit and wait for the song you wanted to record to come on, and then make sure you had everything set up, and as soon as it started, you'd hit record, let it play through, and try to stop it so you get most of the song and not the commentary from the radio DJ. Right, right. Determining good and bad. Absolutely. And not use up all the tapes. Or what really sucks is when you're not paying attention and you get towards the end of the tape and you actually run out of tape before you get the whole song. Like halfway through the song, the thing stops. Like, oh, damn it. Yes, the struggle was real. All right. So hopefully, um, oh, whoops. Yeah. Yeah, got to be careful. You put the wrong tape in there and end up recording over stuff that you actually wanted. And you don't realize it until you actually go back and like play the tape to see how things sound. And then when you think you get to the end, that song stops and it like cuts into some other song and you're like, "Uh-oh, what happened? What did I record over?" Right? Oh, 20 years down the road. Yeah, absolutely. I don't even have any I don't have any cassette tapes anymore. I used to have a bunch. I could go back and have all the things that I had when I was a kid. Um, yeah, that would be lots of things that I would be interested in, just the nostalgia of it now. All right, man. I think I'm going to wrap this up tonight. Um, Join us on Saturday. Saturday we'll be doing session 8 of Wildfire, our Walking Dead series. Um, got some interesting things going on there. That our group is kind of right now kind of torn in 3 different directions, just trying to survive. So come check it out, see what's going on. Hopefully you like it. And then I will be getting out I'll be getting out on the schedule what we're going to be going on into for the RPG deep dive. I am if you're yeah, I'll put it this way, if you're not part of the Discord, join the Discord because we'll announce it there first what is going on, what our next game is going to be. um I'm kind of leaning towards covering Pirate Board next. It wasn't necessarily on the schedule, but I might change that. So with that, everybody have a good night. Thank you very much for joining me this evening.